I'm so pleased to be joined now with Secretary Miguel Cardona of the Department of Education and Acting Secretary Julie Su of the Department of Labor. Thank you guys both for being here and coming to our station. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Good to be
Thank you.
We'll start with you, Secretary Cardona, because there's a pressing issue affecting potentially millions of families in the U.S. that has to deal with FAFSA. There's a new form, and I think that was, a good thing, I think, to have this form, but the rollout has been rocky and bumpy, and the IRS tax data that's been transferred over, there's some glitches with that. What can you say about the latest on trying to fix this glitch so that families have enough information to decide where to send their kid to school in the fall?
Absolutely. Look, that's the biggest priority we have. I've been on calls this morning, making sure that we're on schedule to deliver for those schools, ultimately for the students. I too have a senior in high school, and I know how important this is for families across the country. As you mentioned, we redesigned the whole thing. We expect 600,000 more students to have access to federal dollars. So at the end of the day, it's going to be great for students. We're working on the issues of the delays this week, and we're hoping that we can continue to push it. Over 6.5 million people have signed up for FAFSA. And my message to students is fill it out if you haven't yet, studentaid.gov. In Nevada, only 46% of high school seniors last year filled it out. That's unacceptable. We have to do better. I want that number closer to 90%. It's a faster form. Students have to fill out the forms. We're going to do our job to make sure the schools have what they need and get those letters out so we can have more students going to college. And the president's been pushing to increase Pell Grants, so there should be more dollars for more students.
When do you anticipate this glitch being totally resolved? Because families are kind of waiting in limbo right now. And also, how many students and families affected by this? I saw latest from your department was maybe about 1 million families.
Yeah, about 1 million, a little under 1 million. We expect it this week. We're communicating with colleges daily, and they're ready. We're working with our technical vendors to make sure that the information moves as quickly as possible. We need our students to get those letters to make that decision to go to school and achieve their dreams.
And that has to deal with federal aid for students. But what about the students that are taking out loans and debt to pay for college? It's been a priority of the Biden administration to relieve a lot of those student loans. Many people disagree with that, saying, why should I, as someone who did not take out loans, pay for the loans that someone else chose to take out?
Yeah, well, look, I look at it, I make it analogous to small businesses that we supported during the pandemic. We kept them on their feet. We want to keep Americans on their feet. Student loans have gotten out of control in this country. The system was broken. The president had the courage to say we're going to fix it, and I'm really proud of what we've done. $139 billion in student debt relief to about 4 million Americans. And this is really a lifeline. We're preventing defaults. This helps the local economy. And we're also fixing a broken system. We've improved FAFSA. We're getting that done. We're holding colleges accountable for a better return on investment. You shouldn't be in a lifetime of debt. Getting a degree that costs you $150,000 to get a job that pays $30,000. We need to do better. We're cracking down on that, and we're working with families to make sure that college is for all students, not just for some. And I'm excited to be here with my friend and colleague because we're working on different pathways to higher education too. It's not just a 4-year college. It's also the 2-year college where you get a credential and you get a high skill, high paying career, which is why we're excited to be here in Nevada.
Yeah. Acting Secretary Su, again, thank you for being here. Jobs numbers are expected to come out this Friday. The recent numbers showed that employment is still the second highest unemployment rate here in the state of Nevada at 5.2%. Still, that's pretty low. Are you guys pleased with those numbers, or I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, look at where we've come, right? Just 3 years ago, when the president first came into office, the unemployment rate across the country and right here in Nevada was sky high. Since then, we've had 15 million jobs created in this country, record low levels of unemployment for the longest stretch of time, and high labor force participation rate, meaning people have come back into the labor market following the pandemic and are looking for jobs and finding jobs. This did not happen by accident. Many people actually said it was not possible to happen this quickly, but don't ever bet against President Biden. He had an economic policy, he had a vision and has put it into practice. And now we're seeing these kinds of results. And part of it is, what my friend Miguel, Secretary Cardona just said, which is that, we're investing in jobs, in industries. We're making investments right here in Nevada to build batteries to help power our electric vehicle future. We're supporting teachers. We're here to celebrate the fact that, teachers won a historic contract. And that's part of a nationwide trend where workers are winning at the bargaining table, from Hollywood to healthcare to hospitality, obviously teachers, auto workers, delivery drivers. And it's not a coincidence that these victories are happening at the same time that we have the most pro-worker, pro-union president in history sitting in the White House.
What would you say, though, to Nevadans who, with the unemployment rate being relatively low, do have a job but are still struggling to make ends meet with the high cost of housing, and although inflation is tapered off, costs still remaining high?
Right. That's why I think this idea of a job having to be a good job, a job where you not only have decent pay, where you can raise a family, you have benefits, so you can go to the doctor when you or your children are sick, you have retirement, so you have security at the end of your career, but you also have dignity and respect. You have opportunity, upward mobility. All these things are part of what we believe is a good job, and that's important. And so now our investments are really about making sure that the jobs that we create, to rebuild our infrastructure is not just about good roads and bridges. It's not just about clean drinking water coming out of every faucet. It's not just about high-speed, reliable internet in every home. All those are part of the president's Investing in America agenda, but it's also the fact that those are going to be good jobs that help to lift families out of poverty and give them a piece of the American dream.
Yeah. Nevada's minimum wage is increasing to $12 an hour this summer in July. The lower end of the spectrum, the federal minimum wage still at $7.25. California, our neighboring state, is at $20 an hour. Is the federal minimum wage too low at $7.25? On the flip side, are you worried about California and some states that are kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum, and whether or not that could pinch small businesses?
So the president has been very clear that the $7.25 an hour minimum wage is too low. If you think about that for a full-time worker, that's about $15,000 a year. And, we need to do better. This is what Secretary Cardona said, right? We want jobs to actually allow people not just to get by, but to have what the president calls breathing room. And so he's called for an increase in that minimum wage. Meanwhile, states and even cities have seen that, the need to raise wages, both to protect workers and working families, but also because it's a matter of making a strong economy, right? When workers have enough to actually spend in their communities, that's good for everybody. In California, and has long led the way in terms of worker protections. The $20 is for workers in one particular industry, right? In fast food. But I think what we're seeing is a trend across the country, including for workers who are bargaining themselves, of record wage increases, and that is very much part and parcel of Bidenomics, the idea that we want to make sure that workers get their fair share in this economy.
Before we wrap up, you were just on the ground in Baltimore at the site of the devastating bridge collapse there. You were talking to workers. What's the latest on efforts to kind of create pathways for ships in that area, as well as for the workers affected by this?
So President Biden has been very clear. We are moving heaven and earth to make sure that we clear out the wreckage, that we support the communities that have been affected. I did meet with workers who are feeling understandably really anxious about, when will the port reopen to full capacity? When will what's going to happen to their jobs? And so we're making sure that we are focused on those workers, the families of the workers who tragically lost their lives, right? These were Latino workers who do sometimes, the most backbreaking work. They were working in the middle of the night. They were, too often invisible, literally and figuratively. We need to do better, and we are, and as well as the workers who want to get back to work. And so we need to open that and rebuild in the fastest and most responsible way that we can.
Last question for both of you guys before we wrap. You're both part of President Biden's cabinet. Polls show that a lot of voters are, one, worried about his age, or worried about other things, especially younger voters, things like his policy having to deal with the war in Gaza. What's your message to voters who, as you guys tell us, what you guys say are accomplishments of the Biden administration, people who might not be feeling that, might not be supporting the president?
Look, I'd rather have a president that's 80 years old and is getting things done than a president with 91 convictions and is trying to divide our country.
Well,
That's
not
the bottom
convictions.
line.
Not convictions.
I'm sorry, indictments. And for me, look at the track record. People talk about his age. Look at the ideals that he's putting forward. He's bringing forward climate strategies. He's talking about improving access to higher education. He's talking about fixing the infrastructure. These are the practices that we've delivered on in the last 3 years. And I know that the president, I can't speak about elections, but I know what this president is fighting for. And these are the things that are important to the American people.
Yeah, I mean, we see him up close all the time. I just talked to him yesterday. He is so deeply engaged. He's passionate about his vision for the country, and he's put together a team for, we feel very grateful to get to be a part of delivering on that vision. He called me on my way when I was going to Baltimore a few days ago because he cares so much about the impact of everything that we're doing on working people. He is dialed in. He is, making sure that we deliver, and it's truly a privilege to watch him work.
Absolutely.
Acting Secretary Sue, Secretary Cardona, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.